What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Spectators. We missed last week, but we are back. I was out. Brooklyn was working the Bucks game. We were focused on some football. The wild card round was last week. We just got the divisional round, and we are ready to talk about it, dude. We got a lot to talk about. We got pretty much the four best teams in the conference championship, and that feels good. It's kind of nice to see the teams that deserve to be there being there. Brooke, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How about them Cowboys?
How about them? We starting off just like that?
Just like that. It's always a great day when you could just relive the traumas of Cowboy fans. It's great. There's nothing I love more than seeing Cowboy fans suffer. It's so fun.
Very sadistic of you. I like it. I mean, they get their first win against the Bucks, and they're probably feeling good. Like we finally beat Tom Brady. Woo! Yeah, of course you were gonna beat Tom Brady. He is the shell of himself. He threw 66 times. If Tom has to throw 66 times, you're winning. Like, how bad is the rest of the team got to be that you got to throw 66 times in a game? Dear Lord. So the Cowboys run over them, and then they just face their daddies over the last handful of years. And truthfully, it's everybody's daddies. I mean, the 49ers are just like the pinnacle of an organization. Are they like the best organization in sports right now? Maybe like the Astros and then like the 49ers. And granted, the 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl. But, like, they win consistently every year. They lose guys, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it seems like they're never too far out of being at least a contender every, like, so many years. Because, like, they'll have their stars, they'll have their run, they'll make it to, like, a conference championship game, maybe even a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They might lose it.
Yeah.
And it might all fall apart after that. But guess what? They might be back in the next
2 years,
3 to 5 or even 7 years on the long end, which I mean, that may sound like a lot, but there's teams that they have that like
decades
that ride off into the sunset and make it to a conference championship, Super Bowl, World Series, whatever, and then they might not ever see that again for the next like 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's like for you to be able to rebuild that, cool.
I think it's important to note too that since the 49ers have kind of made their resurgence in the last 10, 15 years or so, pretty much when they got Alex Smith. This is their fourth different quarterback to start a conference championship since Alex Smith was the quarterback. Smith, Kaepernick, Garoppolo, and now Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. And he's maybe the best of all of them is what's crazy. Like, he's looked so good at obviously, like, the Kaepernick days were, like, insane. And he was, like, he was propelling them to be better than they probably were.
People forget how
he was
good Kaepernick was.
God. Kaepernick was unreal. He was so good, especially in that prime 49ers days. But Brock Purdy has looked pretty fantastic, and he has held the ship down. And, I mean, he's not like a world beater. Like, they're not expecting Purdy to go out there and put up Brett Favre, sling it out, get the ball to Debo, and make it work. But when you have the best defense in the league this year, which the 49ers have, and one of the best offensive lines, especially when it comes to committed to like the zone run scheme, then you have the best running back in the league in Christian McCaffrey, and maybe the best second running back in the league in Elijah Mitchell. It's like,
hey, he was doing his thing last night.
No, Mitchell's really good, and I mean, this is a talented team, and they struggled yesterday on offense for the first time since like week 4 against the Cowboys, because if I'm going to give the Cowboys any credit from yesterday, and I will give them a little bit of credit, the Cowboys defense, they figured out like how to make the modern NFL defense. You know what that is? You get 1 or 2 dogs at the line, and you make everybody else in the defense faster than everybody on the offense. So you make them as fast as you can, and you have like an explosive guy or two on the line, Micah Parsons, and they got why I'm blanking on his name, the other Lawrence, not Lawrence, DeMarcus. I was thinking Dexter. I'm like, that's the Giants. Wrong guy. You get 2 dogs in a line, and then everybody else is just faster. Debo looked lost yesterday whenever he was touching a ball. Even McCaffrey didn't look great at times.
Yeah.
But they were able to like string together some drives, and they had some help from the special teams, getting them some good field position on some of their touchdown drive, and
I will even give them credit on that last drive up until that last play. We're gonna get into that. That was wild. But like no timeouts, they had a minute, and it looked like Dak was gonna make something happen, leading them down the field. But then Schultz
doesn't get his toe down, and
he doesn't get the toe down, doesn't make the catch, and then the play before that, he gets outside, but he like starts running back. So then, because of some weird forward progression move, he starts going backwards, and the clock doesn't stop. So now it's like, well, that's just messed up all the mojo here. And it's like you get those two plays, and if you just keep on going, like you probably just got a whole hell of a lot of chunk of yards within what? 20 seconds.
And at least, like you mentioned that last play, that doesn't have to happen, because now at the very worst, you have a Hail Mary opportunity, and especially down 7, like you just throw it up and hope. And they weren't able to do that. They were 70 yards away, and that was just not going to happen. That last play was something. Watching that play, the first time I just watched it through, which was right before we recorded this, because I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of the game. I saw bits and pieces of it. And then I got to see the recaps as got ready for this. If you look at the top part of the screen, it's just like 4 O linemen, and they hike the ball, and they have to just stand there because they can't run down the field, because then it'll be a legal man downfield. So they have to get it out quick, and then they can run. By the time that even happened, the play was already dead because he got blown up. It was a horrible play design because there was no blockers. There was no blockers.
And the one blocker there is Zeke, who got laid out.
The center, Zeke, by the way.
He got laid out.
Which
and it's just like, what are you trying to accomplish with that play? Like, I wish there was a little more progression on that so we could like see what the end game was after it developed. But like, you couldn't, because Zeke got blown up, and I don't even remember who they passed it to, but he got demolished.
Yeah, it was not an ideal play design. But I mean, that's easy to say in hindsight when it got blown up in 1 second. Maybe it was the Mega Mind play that just the 49ers were ready because they played man. Because they're like, why wouldn't we play man? Like, look at the left side of the field. Why wouldn't we play man? Duh. And, Zeke gets pancaked on that, and that's just, like, the ultimate encapsulation of his game. Zeke, 10 rushes, 26 yards, not particularly good. His long rush of the game was 5. 5?
Let him cook. Let him cook.
Cook. Yeah, Zeke is likely cooked, and I don't know what his contract situation is looking like. I'm pretty sure he got extended like 2 years ago, and he's on this books for like a couple years. I would have a hard time believing is going to be a Cowboy next season.
Yeah, I definitely do agree that this is probably the last time we ever see Dak and Zeke play together.
Which is good, because this has just not worked. I saw a really good tweet, and we'll get into the team I'm about to bring up in a second. But Jalen Hurts made a conference championship before Dak and Zeke, and Dak and Zeke had a 6-year head start. It's like, man, bro. And it's not like these Cowboy teams have been bad. They've been really good. They've had great defenses. They've had the best O-line for like 5 of these 8 years in this period already. It's like, bro, we got to figure it out. Because there is a point.
Yeah.
There is a point where you look at the Niners and you're like, man, they're doing this in spite of the fact that their quarterback is Brock Purdy, because their roster is amazing. And then you look at the Cowboys, you're like, wow, this roster is amazing. And they're not doing it because of Dak Prescott. Because when the games matter the most and they're not playing, the Giants or the battered and not actually that good Tom Brady Bucks, it's like 206 yards, 2 picks, a lot of incompletions on third down.
Dak looks so good against the Bucks, where there was points in the week with like, I'm seeing all the hype videos and the all that, and I'm just like, damn. If he plays like that, and we might have something with the Cowboys, and then it's just like, well, nah.
I saw a TikTok, and I don't know who the podcast was or anything like that. I would love to know so we can call him out. This guy, granted, he was a Cowboys fan. He was wearing a Cowboys shirt. He said after that game that Dak Prescott was the third best quarterback in the league. He said it was Mahomes,
I just saw
Burrow,
that today.
Dak. And I saw that, and he wasn't even a third best quarterback in Wild Card Weekend.
It's funny because he started with that he's the fourth best, and then switched Allen. And
yeah, he switched. He switched. Josh
he switched Allen and Prescott and made him the third best quarterback.
Unreal.
I saw that literally like an hour before live.
Dude, he wasn't even the third best quarterback of last week, and he's saying he's a third in the league, and it's like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. I feel bad. Again, I don't think Dak's a bad quarterback by any means. I just think, like, you can be somebody with less talent than Dak, Brock Purdy, and more successful because, for lack of a better colloquialism, you have that dog in you, right? And it's it really matters. Like, when having a guy who's poised and not bothered and all those intangibles is so important. And, you know, I don't want to spend another 15 minutes talking about the Cowboys, but it kind of is what it is. They underperformed. 12 points is not going to win you a game. And guess what? You choked in the divisional round again. The Cowboys will be good again next year. I guarantee you they wind up being good again next year. I promise. And we're going to have the same conversation next January. Playoffs are about to start. The Cowboys will be 11-6, 12-5, 13-4, whatever it is. And it's going to be the same thing. It's actually insane. It's the definition of insanity, what we do with the Cowboys. Not us, but like as media members and as fans, like what we do with this team. Oh, it's different this time. It's not different. Never will be. Never will be.
It's wild.
So
there's nothing else to really say about it other than it's wild.
Yeah, and I mean, I do feel a little bit bad. They wound up playing like the 49ers, and the 49ers are like maybe the best team I've seen since like a Brady Patriots squad. Like, they're nuts. This squad is insane. I can't think of what. Maybe like the first championship, like with Mahomes, like might have been a better team than this. I don't think there's been a better one since. So.
When you're America's team, it don't matter who you're playing. Yeah, go do it since you guys are built like that.
Built different. Let's stay in the conference and let's go over to this Giants-Eagles game. There's not a whole lot to talk about here, except I want to have the smallest victory lap ever because I was told by several people that Daniel Jones was him, franchise quarterback, this, that, and the other thing. Daniel Jones is really, really painfully okay. Painfully okay. He had a QBR of 11 in this game. I don't love QBR as a stat. He had a QBR of 11 in this game. He had a quarterback rating of 53. I don't love quarterback rating either, especially the ESPN one, but that's just kind of what I have in front of me. He was not very good. He threw a pick, no touchdowns. Nobody was open. I mean, his best receiver for the last month and a half of the year had one catch for 3 yards. And, you know, I think the Eagles are significantly better. I will also say in this victory lap that the Giants had a lot to be proud of. They had a way better year than they should have. They have a bottom, and I still mean this, despite losing to them. As a Vikings fan, I still mean this. I think they have a bottom 7 roster in the league. They have one of the better coaches in the league. But
Dable's dope.
But the coach of the year, Brian Dable, who's likely going to be coach of the year if Sirianni doesn't win it. I think Sirianni should win it, as we saw in this game. Sirianni versus Dable this year. Dable lost 3 games in a row. In all 3 of the games, went down at least 2 scores before the Giants put up anything. In all 3 of the games, they were down at least 14. I get your coach of the year. I get the roster's not as good. At some point, if this continues in the next year, and the Giants play the Eagles 2 more times, and they lose 2 more times, and now Brian Dable's 0-5 versus the best team in the division, there's going to have to be a conversation. There's going to have to be a conversation. The best coaches in the league beat their rivals every so often. And losing 3 times in 1 year, it's his first year. I want to put, this isn't overreacting. It's
Yeah,
just
like
something.
the Eagles have been on a steamroll.
Yeah,
Like the two
it's
games that they lost, it was weird. Whatever, cool. Like you're a 10-8 team
yeah.
that somehow got to be 10-8. No problem. Don't bring this into next year now too. And
Well,
then like you
and
say,
that's
go.
a big problem too. Is the Giants are the only team that made the playoffs, maybe with the Ravens. The Ravens might be in the same category, and the Bucks as well. So there's really 3 teams that made the playoffs this year that I have very legitimate concerns about coming into next year. The Giants have to re-sign Daniel Jones and or Saquon. They have to pick one or neither. Do you re-sign a running back who, as great as he's been,
This was his best season.
This was his best season. He still
Now
wasn't
that's
the top
because he was
2
actually
running
on the
back.
field. Yeah, that was because he was actually on the field. Injuries have kept him off, but
Okay,
I mean,
but
still, regardless.
let's do a game real quick, right? Saquon Barkley. Is he better than Christian McCaffrey?
No.
Derrick Henry?
No.
Is he better than Dalvin Cook?
No.
I would probably say yes, but I hear you. Is he better than Miles Sanders? We saw them head-to-head in this game.
I still say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's just the first 3 I could think of. Like, I'm not even going.
No.
Is he better than Jonathan Taylor?
Definitely this year.
Definitely. Not even this year. Is he better than Alvin Kamara?
Yeah.
Is he better than Nick Chubb?
That's probably like right toe to toe.
Is he better than Josh Jacobs?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so you probably have him about 4 or 5 in terms of running backs then, more or less, right?
No.
Are you gonna extend this number 4, 5 running back for 5 years, whatever you consider the max in the NFL, on a second after 2 injuries, 1 in college, 1 in the pros? Like,
I would love to, but no. As an organization,
you can't allow that. And so now the issue comes. I'm not trying to sound like I'm hating on the Giants. Like, this is just the situation that it is. You have to go in and be like, hey, we had a top 5 rushing offense this year. And that was in part because of Saquon. Matt Breida was a great backup. Daniel Jones was a great runner, right? He had 700 yards on the ground this year. That's part of what made this happen. So you have all these things. You're not going to re-sign Saquon to keep Daniel Jones. Just say, example, right? How do you replace a top 5 running back in an offense that runs off the running back when you don't particularly have a great rushing O-line? It's a good rushing O-line. It's not great. So now you have to spend draft capital to go get Bijan Robinson in the first round of the draft, and now you're not getting an edge rusher that you desperately need, a safety that you desperately need, a DB that you desperately need. Like, you're sacrificing these other great positions to keep a run game that's good, and your defense is still going to be mediocre. Again, it's not hating.
These are genuine questions, though.
These are just like, they're one of the 3 teams that I don't know if they're going to be better going into next year. I think almost every other team should, in theory, be better going into next year. Obviously, the last 4 wind up losing players. So when you're in the conference championship, it gets a little weird, but of the divisional and on, like, I don't know. I don't know if the Giants are 9-7 at the end of next year again. I just don't know.
That's the thing on a weird year where you go 10-8-1. Like, how do you even know how to replicate that as a team? Like, do you guys even know how it happened?
Well, this is Brian Dable's first year, so we'll see. I mean, I believe in him as a coach. It's just
I do too. I love the guy.
Yeah,
I love the guy. I think he's great for the Giants.
No.
I love the hire when it first happened. It just built a fire within the team that they desperately needed. So it's like, cool. If anybody could do it, I do think he could. Just it's going to be hard.
They're just in one of those positions that we think is the worst in sports, and that's like a bottom playoff team where, like, you don't want to rebuild because you have some pieces and you can make the playoffs, but, like, you're not going to necessarily do anything in the playoffs. They're starting to get into that situation. You know, that's why there's a reason when you usually get a new head coach, you like to rebuild that first year to, like, get new guys in the building. And it I don't know. Maybe they're better than me. Maybe the organization's smarter than I am right now and they figure it out. I don't know. We'll see. But the Eagles we spent all this time talking about the Giants. The Eagles look amazing. They look so good.
They do, and I'm very excited for this NFC conference championship game because Eagles and 49ers, that's probably the best matchup we could have possibly gotten.
Yeah, I mean, they were the two best teams in the NFC all year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is going to be fun. Two very high-powered offenses. I saw a stat today. I don't remember the numbers off my head, but it was Purdy and Hurts in college, and they pretty much had a shootout.
Yeah, so they played Iowa State versus Oklahoma. This is the Heisman year for Hurts, and I don't remember.
They both put up over like
it was a 1-point game.
Yards.
It was a 1-point game. It was a shootout, 41-42, and Hurts wound up winning it because Oklahoma was great that year. But that was like the year before Iowa State became really good, and the next year Brock Purdy settled in with Breece Hall in that backfield, and Iowa State was a powerhouse that next season. So it makes sense, and cool to see like a random college come back in a conference championship. Pretty cool too. The Big 12 never had a quarterback in the NFL win a playoff game. There's been 3 this playoffs. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy with 2 and Jalen with 1. Pretty cool.
Shout out Purdy.
So it's shout out to the Big 12, I guess. I guess some people will be mad that we're calling Hurts a Big 12 quarterback. He is absolutely a Big 12 quarterback. You can't pull him out of the championship game and tell me he's not a Big 12 quarterback. Sorry, Alabama. Which is wild. Definitely got benched in a championship game, and now he's balling in the NFL. I don't know if anybody at that moment. I remember watching that championship too at Alabama, and we're like, dude, this Hurts guy stinks. There was never a time watching that where I'm like, yeah, that guy's going to be in the NFL. Never mind, like one of the better quarterbacks in the league, somewhere in the top 8. I don't know where, somewhere in there. Yeah. Shout out to this team. This team's amazing, and they do what you need to do to win football games in the playoffs. That's run the ball and control tempo. And that's one thing that the 49ers and the Eagles both do pretty well. It's run the ball, control tempo. They have schemes. I think it's always like an honor as an organization to have people be like, you could throw any quarterback in there and like they would do good. It's like, yeah, we're doing our job as an organization then. Nice. We built a real team that doesn't need just like the best guy ever to throw it around. And there's nothing wrong with having the best guy ever. But guess what? There's one guy in this league that can do that. That's Patrick Mahomes. Every other team, you need a full organization to make this work. And Eagles and the Niners, I think, are the 2 best organizations, at least remaining. And they've done really good jobs between the draft and just building talent and making stuff work. So,
absolutely.
Who do you have in that game?
That's a great question.
I'm gonna stick with the Niners. I think the Niners are really, 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 really scary.
They are. For the sake of fun, I'll go Eagles just so we could have a little thing going. But yeah,
I don't remember what my preseason pick was, but I'm like 98% sure that I did say Eagles Niners were gonna be in the conference championship before the season started. So.
Yeah, I don't even remember mine. we got to go back and look at that.
We do got to go back. I might have been 4 for 4. I'm not sure. I don't remember how I felt about the Chiefs. I'm pretty sure I said the Chiefs were going to make the playoffs and go on a run, but they were going to suck in the regular season. I'm pretty sure it's like the verbatim that I said.
Yeah, so I'll go Eagles. You got Niners. I'm pretty sure I had the Bills in the conference championship.
Sounds right.
But
good segue.
That proves to be wrong because they did lose 27-10 against the Bengals last night.
You know, Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the league. He just is.
He is ridiculously incredible. Like
he is so poised, and he's everything that I was saying Dak wasn't, but he just is. He's so poised, and even when he makes bad throws, and he does make bad throws, and he's thrown interceptions, not in this game, but in general, he's made bad throws and some bad decisions. This was a snow flurry of a game. that he
Which
just
wasn't even like talked about. It just came out of nowhere
yeah,
where we had a blizzard.
I didn't really see anything going into the game that it was going to be that way, but here we are. And Joe was just under control and he looked confident, and him and Jamar looked great together. And I mean, it's not like anybody like really popped off. He was just throwing all of his receivers. There was like 6 guys with double-digit yards. Everybody kind of did well. Joe looked pretty good, and it's not even like he went crazy in this game. But again, the control, and they got the ball first drive. They won the toss. They said we want it. They charged down the field. They get a stop. Get the ball back. Charge down the field. You blink, 14-0. You're like, in Buffalo, and the Bills are like, whoa, hold on. Hold on.
Any of that.
No, and I mean, there was a point in this game where it was 17-10. And I'm looking and I'm like, that's wild. This is a 1-score game. The Bills still don't have a chance. I had zero confidence at any point in this game that the Bills were going to win it. And I mean, that happens. And I mean, there's been times where like, oh, they have no chance. And they wind up coming back and winning games. Like, look at Jacksonville last week. But it didn't feel it. It was never there. And I think there is a sizable gap. I don't know how big, I don't know how sizable, between Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. I think that Josh Allen has been given a lot of credit. I'm not going to put this game fully on him. I think there's a lot of small things wrong with the Bills that they really need to improve on. They kind of won a lot of games this year off the back of Josh Allen and just like swinging first and really hard. And then when they had to play these like elongated games that were like stretch them out, fight them off, they didn't really win them. They lost to the Vikings in that weird one. They lost to the Dolphins early in the year. And I mean, they only had 3 losses this year, but like,
yeah,
there was like,
and it's definitely been a tough year with like all the injuries that they've had.
Yeah, and I mean that's definitely a thing. But I don't want to say injuries. The Bengals were down 2.5 O linemen in this game.
No, not
and
not
they still couldn't put pressure on them. It's kind of interesting. Josh Allen plays worse in bad weather, which is like not a trait you want out of your Buffalo Bills quarterback. Every time there's like a blizzard, he's not at his best, which maybe they need to practice more in the snow. I don't really know what that requires.
And especially when there's no plans to put a dome in the new stadium that they're thinking about making.
Yeah, it's really dumb. It's really dumb. Put a roof on it, please. They can't be having this happen.
You put a roof on it, and it's still you guys are guaranteed to see a Super Bowl in Buffalo. So
that's true. Whether or not it's you in it, guaranteed at some point. Here's the thing, man. Here's the bottom line. Josh Allen has been given a lot of credit off for his natural talent and his ability, as he 100% deserves. But at some point, he has to beat Joe or Patty. And he just hasn't done it yet. And so until that point comes, and this team's window is getting shorter and shorter, I mean, this is already going into the 4th year where they were like favorites coming into the year. Something's got to give.
And especially after the game, I know emotions are high. It's always easy to be like, oh, this guy's going to leave now. But, like, seeing what we saw out of Diggs, it's like, do we still have the Allen to Diggs combo? I
mean, they were significantly worse the second half of the year. Something happened between them. I don't know. Diggs has done this before. This isn't like new. Like,
and that's what I'm saying. So like, I'm not looking too deep into it, but it's definitely something to be talked about. Because if you do lose Diggs, that's tough.
That's super tough.
That's really tough, and that's going to put a big damper on your window if that thing is even like remotely cracked after that at all. So.
Yeah, there's question marks there. I don't want to overreact for the Bills or anything like that, but they do have very clear weaknesses. They need another edge rusher. When Von Miller got hurt, they forgot how to rush the quarterback. They need another edge rusher or somebody to get after the quarterback. They absolutely need a running game. I don't care how they do it. I don't care how they do it. I don't think James Cook is that bad. I don't think Devin Singletary is that bad. Why don't they get run? Why don't they get play? I mean, maybe they're not that good. I don't really know. You need to figure out a rushing attack because Josh Allen can't be 8 of your 19 total rushes in a game in the snow.
Yeah.
That just can't
Go
exist.
go try to get Saquon. Go try to get Zeke. Go try to make something happen. Go get somebody.
There's
Like
quite a few free agents.
you guys should have tried to go get CMC when that was even an option. That would have been the move right there.
Yeah.
You add CMC to this team,
A lot changes.
a lot changes.
Yeah.
Like they are dominant right now.
They're a better blocking
And
team.
they're probably moving on to the next round.
I don't know.
But
the way they got their butt whipped yesterday, I don't know if CMC is helping it. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing, especially a snow game. Like you need a running game, and I know Burrow was throwing it through the air, so like it could go both ways. But like snow games, it's gonna come down to the run.
I mean, you say that, but the Bengals rushed the ball 34 times yesterday. So
no,
34 versus 19. You win games through the ground in the playoffs. That's just kind of how it goes. No matter how good or bad your running backs are, you win and lose games on the ground in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, the Bengals look really good. We've kind of talked more about the teams that lost than that have won. The Bengals look dangerous. They've been the best team in the league for the last 10 or so weeks. Outside of the Niners, those two have been the best teams, streaking, surging towards the finish line. Joe Burrow's looked amazing. And, I don't know. This is a weird situation for the Bills.
Yeah.
It's a very weird one. To the last game we go. The best game of the weekend. Which is kind of crazy to me. I know the Niners game was like close, but this was the best game of the weekend right here. Jacksonville at Kansas City. Trevor Lawrence was pretty good. He didn't look fantastic. He looked pretty good, right? Patrick Mahomes gets absolutely folded like a lawn chair. And I looked at that man hobbling off the field, and he's begging to stay on the field. Let me in. He winds up coming back in the second half. He gets whatever cortisone shot, whatever they put into that ankle. It probably had the strongest horse tranquilizer of all time. Just stab him, let him fly. Apparently it was a high ankle sprain. And he made some of the Patrick Mahomes plays that we know him to make in that second half to win this game. They won this game in the second half. Like, I know they scored the same in the second half. They both teams scored 10. He made the plays that they needed to go down and win this game. It was really on him, despite him looking like he couldn't hand the ball off, despite him not being able to take step back and drop back passes like he's typically accustomed to. He had a I am the best quarterback moment. And there's a reason whenever we talk about the top guys, nobody's really saying anybody else is number one, because what you saw on Saturday from Patty was pretty incredible.
His greatness is undeniable, and he proves that year in and year out, doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
He gets hurt. He should be out of the game. We should have the weird appearance of Henne,
Chad Henne,
coming out of nowhere. I heard the name. I was like, who?
I couldn't believe he was still in the league.
So like, and shout out to Henne. That was probably the biggest drive of his career right there. Because you come in out of nowhere. You shouldn't be in this game. This is a big game. You go and you get them a score.
Yeah.
And then you ride off into the sunset.
He looked really good in that drive too.
Because look at the I know hindsight's crazy, but like this is a 7-point game.
Yeah. They won by his touchdown.
So like
it's the narrative. That's the narrative.
It's the narrative. Anything is possible, baby.
Yeah.
So like shout out to him, but again, Pat comes back in and you see him hobbling all over the field trying to run, skipping and hopping and zipping and zagging, going crazy. And he makes it work. And that's why his greatness is just undeniable. Because when you need him most, he is going to show up. There's never a time, like, maybe outside of a weird, like, game or two, where it's like, damn, Pat played bad. He didn't really show up. Yeah. He's always going to show up.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, last year, Bengals take him to OT, and he throws a pick in OT, winds up losing it.
Tough.
It happens. It does happen.
It happens.
But for the most part, this guy is pretty much a one-man wrecking crew, and he still has a good team around him. But everybody thought the Chiefs were going to be worse coming into this year. They lose Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill goes from a really good receiver to a number 2 receiver in the league. We thought he was going to be worse. People thought Tyreek Hill was going to have a worse year. Patrick were going to have a worse year. They were going to be worse together. They were both going to be sad about it.
I thought it was complimentary.
Both had career years. Patrick's going to win an MVP. Tyreek Hill would probably win Offensive Player of the Year if Justin Jefferson didn't exist. And look at where we're at. Patrick Mahomes in his 5th consecutive conference championship. It's pretty remarkable. I've seen some cool comparisons, which I don't fully like doing, comparing the new to the old guys because of the way the game is so different. But they were like Tom to Patrick, right? Those were like the parallels. Then you had like Joe Burrow to Peyton Manning, and that was the parallel. And then you had Josh Allen to, they said Big Ben. I did see a kind of a better one. That was to Phillip Rivers that I really liked. They feel pretty similar, except Phillip obviously wasn't a runner, but they feel pretty similar in a lot of regards.
Yeah.
Which, if you open the TikTok of that and read the comments, you would think Phillip Rivers was a bum. People were like, no, bro, just no way Josh Allen's Phillip Rivers. No way. It's like, Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. You better relax and respect this man.
And Josh Allen will probably have a Hall of Fame career. But
hopefully, if he stays healthy, then there's no reason he wouldn't if he stays healthy. But
if he never gets a ring and doesn't pull out, he's Phillip Rivers.
Yeah. Phillip Rivers. Which isn't a bad thing. It's just kind of the way it goes, man. It's just the way it goes. And listen, I hope it happens. I think it'll happen one day. But in what realm are the Bills or any AFC team realistically gonna have a window here? Because you have Patrick Mahomes, who's gonna be good for, at the very minimum, and this is the low end, it's gonna be more than this, but he's gonna be great. Probably the best quarterback in the league for another 5 years. Probably closer to 10, but we'll say 5 years. Joe Burrow will be probably number 2 for the next 10 years. Trevor Lawrence looked fantastic. He's right there in the come up. You have Justin Herbert right there too. You have 5 great quarterbacks. That's not considering Lamar Jackson, who's probably better than Herbert and Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Where does the window come from? You have to hope so many things either go right or your team just is perfect just to get past one of those guys.
Yeah, the AFC is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. This is Mahomes' worst team we've ever seen him with, and they dominated this year. So when is that going to change? If he went 14-3 with this team and they've already won a playoff game, and they're probably favorites, I don't know what it's looking like, but they're probably favorites at home versus the Bengals again.
Yeah.
And say they make another Super Bowl, 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, and that was his worst team.
That's the thing. I don't see it changing for as long as Andy Reid is there, because as much as we give credit to Pat and what he does, you have to give credit to Andy Reid. That man is a genius.
Yeah.
He's an absolute genius, and he's the mastermind to this whole thing that is the Kansas City Chiefs run.
Yeah.
So as long as Andy is there, that this team is going to be a force. So it's you got to get comfortable with seeing them at least in the divisional round every year.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a year where we're not getting Patty in the conference.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
It's going to happen.
Whether it's
everybody's going to go,
weird
Patty's
loss,
cooked, this, that. It's going to happen. The narrative's going to be there, and then guess what? They're going to come back the next year, and they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. So it's just stop. Appreciate the greatness. See it. He's a dog. No. Absolute dog of a quarterback. And get comfortable, because this is our modern day, and I'm not comparing the name with the achievement wise, but this is our modern day Tom Brady.
Right. It just is.
There's no way around it.
I think more realistically, the better comp is Aaron Rodgers. I think Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are like really, really comparable to each other outside the fact that Mahomes is more prone to turnovers than Rodgers throughout his career.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like if you ask a lot of people who have like been watching football, they're probably the two most talented quarterbacks you've ever seen. It's Rodgers and Mahomes. And obviously we consider Brady to be the best. It was the longevity, it was the accolades, it was just the winning and the culture and everything that he's done over his career. It's all that. But I do feel like it's a little bit more comparable to Rodgers, just not out of comparison, but just if we're going to throw a name out there's sake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully he wins a second ring and doesn't become Rodgers. That'd be nice. And I don't know, man. There will be a full narrative switch. Not switch, but like there will be something to talk about if Mahomes cannot beat Burrow again and he's still winless against Burrow in this conference final, which is very possible.
Yeah, because at that point, are you putting Burrow number 1?
Yes. No. Mahomes is still better. Regardless of what happens in this game, I don't care if Burrow throws for 700 yards, doesn't have an incompletion. Patrick Mahomes is still better. I don't care.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if the narrative is every time he plays Burrow, he loses, but he's great every other time.
I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it. It would take quite a bit for anybody to dethrone Patty. Like it would take like years of excellence to kind of dethrone him at this point.
But I do take back I do backtrack on that because if we're going with that narrative, then it's kind of like, okay, Eli is better than Brady.
So I'm saying like we can't.
So
be
it's
doing
like
this.
I'll backtrack.
We can't be doing this.
I can backtrack on my takes.
Like Big Ben was never better than Peyton Manning, but like they happened to beat them a couple times in the playoffs. Like it's like both can be great,
but just, it something is great to be said that like we got to see a bunch of just great AFC quarterbacks duking it out in the conference finals and all that. Now here we are again, just younger.
Same thing. Yeah.
Younger, probably more talented with like the stuff that they can do now, like.
And that's just the way, and that's just the way the NFL will be in 15 years. It'll be the same conversation.
And no knock on them. Like guys will be passing it to themselves in 15 years. Like that's fine. But like,
shout out Mariota for inventing that. I guess. Yeah. That'll be wild. Whatever's happening back then, and then I'm sure then some dude named Jacob Donaldson will be the best quarterback we've ever seen, and he'll be playing for like the Raiders. And we'll be like, wow, why did people crap on the Raiders all this time? It's like, bro, because they couldn't stay out of jail. Like
it's gonna be like Raiders and Lions in the Super Bowl, and everybody's gonna lose their mind.
It'll actually be Jared Goff still. Jared Goff will still be the quarterback, and there'll be a point where we're like, man, why did anybody think this guy sucked? He's the best to ever do it. Look at him in these offenses.
Yeah, the narrative's gonna completely change on Jared Goff.
It won't.
It won't. He's still dog. Don't let the stats fool you.
He is so okay. He's probably the best game manager in the league.
Probably not, but sure.
Who's a better one? Who's a better one? Who's a better one right now?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Hell nah. Are you seeing what Brock Purdy's doing?
System quarterback.
This dude, Jimmy Garoppolo, is getting outplayed, but from some dude from Iowa. Hell no.
Regardless, who do you got in the AFC Championship game?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's same reaction I had with the NFC. Like, no matter what, it's just like
I think the Bengals are a better team. I think they're a better, more well-rounded team. I think they have a better defensive line as a unit. I do think their O-line's a little bit worse. They've obviously have better receivers. The quarterbacks are what we just talked about. I think Andy Reid's a way better coach. I think that matters. I am the biggest Zach Taylor hater of all time. I think he's a terrible coach, and I'm mad that he's been super successful. I'm very mad about it. I think he sucks. With that being said, Mahomes isn't going to lose twice in a row to the Bengals in the playoffs. Mahomes.
Fair enough. I agree with every single word that
right?
you said. There's
He's gonna go Bengals.
There's no argument with anything that you said. I'm going with the Bengals.
And I'm not even mad at it.
Yeah. Like sometimes, no matter how much it all makes sense, nothing makes sense.
I'm really happy that it's wound up this way because you could have like chalked this line, and I think pretty much every game leading up to this felt right. I mean, the Bills-Bengals one could have been an up in the air one for whoever. I do think if you looked at it objectively, the Bengals were a better team for longer when it mattered more in this season. So it got chalk, and I'm happy that at this point, this is hard decisions. And one of these games is going to be a blowout. I think there's going to be one good game this weekend and one bad game this weekend. And the bad game will be a team coming back and not doing it well enough. If I had to guess which one, I would say it's like the Eagles trying to come back against the Niners, if I had to guess. That's how I feel about this weekend. I think this game is going to be great regardless. This game will actually be similar. It'll turn into a great game. Bengals are going to go up like 14 right away, just like they did against the Bills. Watch it. Watch it. Who cares how many points Mahomes is down? You remember that Texans game a couple years ago?
24.
You remember that game? Like, I know you were watching that game. Do you remember?
24 to nothing. I remember I was in the car driving back home from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Was working there, driving back. We're watching it on the phone, and we're just seeing that. And I'm just like, huh?
The funniest part about that game was they scored their first touchdown. The Chiefs did. And you're like, oh, that was easy. And then they got to stop. And this is before the half, or I don't remember if it was before the half or not. They got to stop. And it was like, oh, they're just going to come back and win this game, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they slaughtered them. It was not even close. It turned into a blowout.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was 28-24 and they just scraped it out. No, it was like what? 40-something?
I think it was, I'm going to look it up real quick. I think it was 48-27. Like,
yeah, so like you guys only got a field goal after?
Let me double check. No, I was wrong. They scored a little bit. It was 51-31. The Chiefs scored 28 points in the second quarter. I need to rewatch that game. I remember how ridiculous that was.
We're gonna do that after we're done recording.
Dude. 51-31 and they were down 24-0.
I'm so down to rewatch that after.
Ain't no way. All right, we're going to get into that. Everybody, thank you for watching. Let us know who you guys think are going to win these conference championship games and who's going to be in the Super Bowl. There's kind of a lot happening there. I'm super excited about it. We are getting down to the nitty-gritty. We will not be talking about the Pro Bowl next week. I'll tell you what. We'll talk about how these games worked out and the landscape of the rest of the sports world. So be excited for that. I'm excited to see you there, and love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take it easy, everybody. Have a good rest of your week. Peace.